I've been talking over the last few days about the wobbles of Farage because of his association with Trump. And I'm not, of course, the only person who has seen that as a problem. The political waters within Reform UK have turned choppy as internal disagreements about leadership, direction have spilled into the public domain. And Farage, the ever controversial figure at the top, now I'm not shallow, now faces criticism from within his own ranks. I use the word very carefully. Robert Lowe, one of the rankers, the MP for Great Yarmouth, has launched a broadside against the party's structure, or rather its lack of structure, arguing that it remains a protest party led by a messiah, rather than a properly functioning political force. He's right, of course. He's absolutely right. Lowe's criticism is damning but methodical. He acknowledges Farage's effectiveness in building the party and mobilising support, but questions whether Farage's charisma alone can be translated into genuine governance. His key concern is that Reform UK lacks a structured leadership team, a clear front bench, and crucially, the strategic infrastructure necessary to transition from protest to policy making. His remarks published in the Daily Mail suggest that he might even leave the party if these changes are not made before the next general election. Well, of course, there doesn't need to be a front bench of a party that is a backbench party and has only got 5 members. Farage, never one to let criticism go unchallenged, responded with characteristic bravado. In an interview with Talk TV, I suppose one could say that very loosely, the word interview with Talk TV. How do you do an interview with a TV station that isn't even on the TV? He dismissed Lowe's assertions as completely wrong, and insisted that Reform UK is not a protest party, but a positive party with making gigantic strides. It's enormous. Farage might have said, it's enormous. We've got to take his word for it. He further suggested that Lowe's criticism stems from personal ambition. You're only jealous. Quipping that perhaps he wants to be Prime Minister. His backdrop of internal friction is Reform's electoral performance. The party secured over 4 million votes in the last general election and now has 5 MPs in Parliament, a significant breakthrough for a minor party, but not yet a seismic political force in Westminster. Lowe's intervention signals growing frustration within Reform that despite its populist appeal, it remains directionless and overly reliant on Farage's personal brand. Another layer to this saga is the intervention of Elon Musk. The tech millionaire, who's increasingly dabbled in UK politics, previously suggested that Lowe and behold, might be a preferable alternative to Farage, arguing that Farage doesn't have what it takes. Musk's endorsement to Lowe adds fuel to speculation that Reform's internal divisions could result in a leadership battle before the next election somewhere down the line. And it's like Elon Musk masquerading as Iago, whispering into the ear of little Lowe. A little lower, please. The timing of this dispute is also significant. Reform's polling has stalled at around 25%, failing to break through to the level needed to challenge the major parties. Additionally, Keir Starmer's Labour Party has pulled ahead in the last few days following a successful round of diplomatic talks over Ukraine. Meanwhile, the Conservative Party under Kemi Badenoch is struggling at 3rd place with only 21% support and increasing defections to Reform, or just indifference. Yet Lowe's criticism suggests that Reform now is squandering its momentum. A word drawn from Labour, unless and will continue squandering its momentum unless it evolves beyond its present protest roots. Lowe's concerns reflect broader challenges for any insurgent political movement. You can go back to the SDP. Populist parties often thrive on discontent and opposition, but struggle to transition into governing entities. The Messiah label Lowe applies to Farage is not merely rhetorical, it encapsulates a deeper structural problem where all roads lead to one man. And without institutional depth, the party remains vulnerable to internal conflicts and strategic misfires. And Farage's counter-argument that his personal brand was instrumental in securing Reform's 5 parliamentary seats in the first place is not without merit. His ability to command media attention and to galvanise public sentiment is unmatched in British politics. But his refusal to embrace a more conventional party structure risks alienating those within his ranks who seek long-term viability rather than perpetual insurgency. Looking ahead, the question is whether Reform can sustain itself as a serious political contender. If Farage continues to govern by force of personality alone, it may remain confined to the role of a pressure group rather than a true alternative government in waiting. And Lowe's intervention, whether motivated by genuine concern or personal ambition, forces the issue. Should Reform UK institutionalise or remain a one-man band? For now, the civil war remains confined to words, but as Reform attempts to solidify its position in British politics, this tension will either forge a more resilient party or lead to fragmentation. If Lowe's criticism gains traction within the party's ranks, Farage may be forced to decide whether he can share the stage or whether his leadership, like so many populist movements before, is ultimately a cult of personality. There are many people who would describe Nigel Farage as a cult, but there we are.